Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Grace. So today is Wednesday, March 27th. It is the middle of spring break for my kids and it has flown by. So I want to discuss the four books that I have read recently. I'm going to go in order from the books that I like the best to the book that I like the least. It was quite a difference. Like the very best book was a 5-star book, and the book I didn't like I don't even want to rate it. It was just I did not like it at all. But so many people like this book. Anyways, let's just get into it. So the book that was a 5-star read, I saw a few videos floating around on how do you like justify a 5-star, how do you do your ratings. If I'm like, sometimes I'll just like a book and I'll say like, hey, this is a 5-star book because I enjoyed it that much. But when I'm thinking logically, to me, a 5-star book is a book that everybody will enjoy. So like, my sister reads like funny like rom-com type books like Confessions of a Shopaholic. That's like one book series that we both enjoy. The last book that I lent her was that I felt like she was gonna like was Pineapple Street. So like that's her genre. My friend Ashley, she likes thrillers, and especially like domestic thrillers. My friend Genevieve, like more horror type books. Like as long as it's quirky and weird, that's what she'll like. To me, a 5-star book is a book that I can recommend to all of them, and they're all gonna enjoy it despite what genre it falls in. Like it's just a good book that anyone can enjoy. That being said, the 5-star book that I read was Jamila Green Ruins Everything. What this book is about, Jamila Green is pushing 40. She has written her first book and it did not get like the acclaim that she was hoping for. Like she has spent most of her life writing this book and it kind of just like fell flat. Like her book signing was overtaken by her frenemy and it just like her life isn't going the way she wanted it to go. So what she does is she goes to her local mosque. Her family is Muslim. She's Muslim too, technically, but she doesn't practice the faith. And the reason why is because her brother, who was like very faithful and very devout in his religion, was murdered by a homeless man when she was like in high school. So ever since then, she has not reconciled with her faith. But really, she goes into this mosque because she wants to yell at someone. And she finds that person in Ibrahim. So while Jamila is very like sarcastic and like she's very funny, but like a very dry sense of humor. Ibrahim is very like good and he's just naive and he wants to do the best, like regardless of like what the consequences are. So like they just make the best duo for this book. And it's just what happens is like it gets into like terrorism and stuff. And in the author's note, the author does say like, you know, writing a satire about like being a Muslim American and terrorism and ISIS isn't something that was easy to do or necessarily recommended, but you know, and she explains why she did it. So basically she goes to this mosque and she starts yelling at this guy and she's just like, you know what, I just want to know how to get God to listen to my prayers. What do I need to do? And he like really wants to make a mark on this in this mosque. Like he's 25 years old. He just came from Egypt. He's not worldly, but he just really wants to spiritually guide people. And then he gets Jamila, who is like the worst person because she comes in just not necessarily wanting answers. Like you don't get the idea that she really wants answers. She just kind of wants to yell at somebody. And he tells her like, you know what, just help a homeless person. Not knowing that like that's kind of a trigger for her because that's how her brother was killed. So she tells him like, okay, if this is what you want me to do, go with me. Go with me to like help or feed a homeless person. And she wants to feed them like crap. Like she's going through her fridge and finding just like almost expired food to give to a homeless person, and that's just like one of these like like what this book is and how ridiculous it is are these like stupid little adventures that they go on. So they go to like feed a homeless person. They find one. His name is Barkley, and he's just this tall white guy. And he's telling them like, oh, you know, I'm thinking about converting to being a Muslim. And Ibrahim is like so excited when he hears this, and he rejects Jamila's food and he's like, how about you get me coffee? Like, can we go to Starbucks? And they're just like, sure, let's go to Starbucks. They go and Jamila has left her wallet at home because she doesn't want to get mugged. And Ibrahim has no money, so the homeless guy has to pay for their coffee. Long story short, this guy has been recruited by like, in this book, the organization is called DIC. And it stands, I forgot what it stands for, but I'll put it right here. So he's being radicalized by them. So basically this organization sends him bits of money, like $5, $10, $20 at a time. But they tell him like, you know, you just have to find your passage to the Middle East like you have to pay for that on your own, but we'll send you like little, they kind of just like are baiting these people. And so this homeless guy ends up like robbing Ibrahim, and Jamila, not thinking anything of it, she tells him, let's go to the police and file a report because he stole like $2,000 from you. And basically, like, it's just like chaos because the police think that Ibrahim is a terrorist as well. So they want to take him in for questioning, and it's just like it gets very conspiracy theory, and but it's like what it's about is talk about like being a Muslim American and the racism and like the hard things that you have to deal with, and it does talk about a lot of things that if you don't know about like a lot of Middle Eastern politics, you wouldn't know. Like they talk about how America was terrified of communism reaching the Middle East like in the 70s, so they published and printed and sent out all these books to these little kids, like they're made for like grade schoolers, about like jihadism, and it's like kind of an American concept, and how America kind of implanted that idea into young Middle Eastern kids. So it tackles a lot of Middle Eastern politics, but like the story is hilarious. So it was just good. All right, the next book is Outlive. I'll put it right here. So this is like a nonfiction book. It talks about how to live a long life, but not only like reach like the highest age you can, but to live that life like fully. Because like he talks about like what's the point in living to be 100 if you're crippled with a lot of chronic pain. So he discusses like all these things that you can do to improve your health. The thing that I like about it is like he doesn't fearmonger. He does talk about like the best food, but basically like the best diet is what's good for your body and trying to find what that is. And like there's just no one diet fits all, because I think like right now we're all freaking out about like just how cancer is being found in younger and younger people and what we can do to prevent it. But he just like, I don't know, like a lot of this topic does scare me a lot, but like he makes it seem like you can take charge of it, because a lot of times people are just like, just eat healthy food, and like that'll be like all you need to do. But then you hear about a lot of healthy people getting cancer and not being able to beat it. So it's like a mixture of things. It's having like mental health, sleep, and all these things that you can control. And he doesn't put a whole lot of stock in like food being bad, because he does talk about the studies. But I did rent this from the library, and it's a book that I would want to buy and just read in little pieces, because as my library hold was running out and I was seeing like I had 8 days, 7 days, 6 days, it was like I started skimming. But I did enjoy his book, and I did see that he has a podcast, so I think I would enjoy listening to that as well. Next book, I started off really enjoying this book and thinking I was going to really love it. I didn't read the summary because I saw somebody talking about it like on a YouTube short, and I was like, you know what, this looks good. Let me just like get into it without reading the summary. So I borrowed it from my library. So what this book is, it's in the perspective of this conservative family. You have the big guy who is like this 60-year-old Republican, and his daughter who's 18 and she's voting for the first time. It starts off on the election night in 2008 between Barack Obama and John McCain, and it only goes up to the inauguration. So at first, when I started reading this book, I was like, this is going to be interesting to see how this goes from this point to the Trump era. But it's only a few months, so I feel like that's what made me not like it, because in the end, like, that's like nothing, But what I did enjoy about this book is that you see like the Republican mindset, because it's very easy to see a Republican as like a crazy person, someone that is just like the worst of the worst, kind of just dim-witted, believes everything he sees on the news. But in this book, you see like the conservative values that they have and how they just are kind of nostalgic for a time that used to be. And in this book, they even talk about it, how it's like maybe the America that they are thinking about never even existed, but they have this nostalgia for it. And I'm sorry, but if you hear farting, it's not me. My dog is right here and she's sleeping. So I feel rude kicking her out because she is like dead asleep, but she has been farting this whole time. Anyways, so, you're flipping perspective between the big guy and his daughter Megan. And it was interesting to see her like kind of developing her own mindset, but at the same time like I did like how her father wasn't painted to be this like crazy person, but he is a little bit racist, but in that part isn't really explored because it's like I think it's easy to say like 2019 and beyond, that's when America got like really fractured in how there's just two sides where it feels like they're never gonna be like peace, like, you know, between the Republicans and the Democrats. Because when it feels like prior to this, they kind of worked together, they kind of achieved things, but now it's just like they're just battling it out. But it's easy to forget that 2008 was a very divisive election, that a lot of people didn't want Barack to win because he was black. And it's just like reflecting on that in 2024, like it feels like, oh yeah, like I forgot about that because he was a good president. And I feel like he was the last president where even if you didn't vote for him, even if you didn't like love everything he did, you could at least respect him as a president. And another thing that this book touched about our election system is like in the beginning they were talking about how other like nations, like say Native Americans, they would plan for 100 years because they wanted their generations to prosper. But because we only have 4 years before we vote in another president, it's just like we're just trying to get to the next election period. And they talk about it how it's like being in line for a roller coaster and just like running back in line like as soon as you're done being thrown around for like a loop, and it's just like you just get in line even though you feel sick. And that's what our election process is like. But yeah, I just feel like it was just a little bit too short of a time period. Like it got a little repetitive, and it would have been a lot more interesting if it covered more years. I liked The Least. This is a book I've kind of been kicking around on my TBR for a year or two. It has been rated very highly. But okay, this book is called Confessions. What it's about is this teacher has been teaching like these primary school, I don't know, they're like 12, 13, and she is giving this monologue to her students about how she is now going to retire. And she talks about how her daughter was killed a few months earlier, and she knows that two of the kids in her class killed her daughter. So it sounds gripping, like it sounds like this is going to be super interesting. But the way this book is told is you have her monologue, and then you have like three other perspectives, I believe, and two of them are the boys that did it. But I feel like because even just that alone, she gives you everything up front, so when you get in their perspectives, like it's not interesting, like you have no connection to these kids, like you already know they're like bad kids or what they did, so it's not like you're shocked, you know what I mean? The other thing I didn't like, this book was published in 2014. I think that's important because a big part of this book, it talks about HIV/AIDS. And just like it's just a lot of misunderstandings about the disease. And I'm trying to remember because I know I'm squeamish about that topic. I don't know a whole lot. Like I don't, research it. But I did see a video like a few years ago, and it was like this channel called Becky and Chris. And they do like video type of things, like video, like vlog style content. But the guy is a doctor, and he accidentally got pricked treating a infected patient, and he took the medicine for it, like that kind of stops the virus from developing in your body, and he just did a video like making sure he didn't have it. And it brought to light a lot of things that I didn't know about, like how livable it is for people to have that disease nowadays. But in this book, it's just very like, it's almost like it was published in like 1980, like just like how little these people knew. And they mentioned smartphones and stuff, so it's not like it took place in the 80s, 90s. And just like the misinformation and the plot holes in it, like I just didn't think it was a good book. Alright, so those were the books I read today. Spontaneously, me and my daughter went to the library. We just went to Coffee Bean, and okay, because what I have been doing for spring break, I have been taking my son swimming. He's in a wheelchair, so I take him swimming as much as I can, and they have opened up the hours for it. And since he's on spring break, I can take him first thing in the morning. So I take him from 9 a.m. to 11. So like by the time I get home, like I want to do something with her. Because, she's been sleeping most of it, but still, I don't want her to feel neglected. So I took her to coffee, and she had the idea to go to the library. So I picked up 4 books. Here are the 4 books that I picked up. I started reading this one, and so far I'm like 50-50, might be a DNF. It's called Amazing Grace Adams, and this is actually on Kindle Unlimited. I saw that today. But what this book is about is like this woman, Grace, is 45 years old, and she has had this kind of argument with her daughter, and she's trying to deliver this cake on foot. She kind of has like a mental breakdown, it seems. She's going through like perimenopause, so she's having like the hot flashes and all this stuff. But so far, the thing that I'm not enjoying so much is we have our current timeline, and then she just randomly jumps back to like when she met her daughter's husband, like who knows how long, like 20 or so odd years like prior to like whatever's happening right now, and it's kind of like hard to care. That's where I'm at right now with this one. But the other one is The Secret to a Southern Wedding. I'm imagining this is a romance, and I'm not a romance person, but I don't know, something about this caught my eye. So it's like this woman, Imani Kemp, has returned to her house, and her mother is getting married to this man, and she just doesn't like the circumstances of it, so she's gonna try to stop it. And like that's what it's about. But then you have the perspective of the guy's son, who is like, hey, my dad's finally happy, I'm not gonna let this woman like step in. It sounds really corny, it's explained better on the back, but yeah. The next one is Beatrice Williams, The Beach at Summerlee. This takes place during World War II. I have read a few of Beatrice Williams's books, like the 1940s, World War II. That is like her era, and she writes really well about all of that. And I think it's like it's just like this summer house, like an island, and there's like a spy. There's an espionage situation in this book. So that's what this one is about. And the next one is Sign Here, a novel by Claudia Lux. And I remember wanting to read this, and then let me see. Yeah, it's a demon. It's a demon telling you his story about like getting people to sign their souls. I like either heaven or hell, like stories that take place in the afterlife. That's like one of my favorite things. So that is the other book that I picked. So if the book I'm currently reading is a flop, this is the book that I'm going to jump to next. You know what? I was going to make it a longer video, but it looks long enough, so I'm going to end it there and just leave you with my gassy dog.